Hi, this is Barb. I want to really apologize about the technical difficulties and thank you for hanging in there with me. I actually have 2 emails and it's been 5 years of nightmare thanks to Google. So I want to welcome you. So my name is Barb Paldus. I'm the CEO and founder of Codex Labs. And in this live session, we're going to talk about solutions that can help support eczema-prone skin, especially when you're dealing with irritation that can be made worse by bacteria like Staph aureus, infections that I'm sure all of us have had at least once in our life. Before we start, I would just want to do a quick reminder that everything we talk about today is for general education and information and skincare support only. I'm not giving medical advice. And definitely this does not replace seeing your doctor or dermatologist, especially if you have an active infection, as we'll be talking about in this live, with a weakened skin barrier and eczema and scratching. There is always a risk that you get the staph into your bloodstream, and especially if it's MRSA, it can develop into a life-threatening condition. So I just want everybody to be aware that some of the topics we'll be talking about today are pretty serious. They can cause an immense amount of pain. They may be difficult to treat or go away. So we're presenting some additional and new solutions in this space, but always consult with your doctor. And during this live, I'll be going through basically, we're going to start with just a quick recap of some of the general Codex eczema solutions. And then what we've prepared for you are educational snippets. So we'll be doing kind of chunks of education, science education, eczema education, education about what is staph, how does it cause eczema flare-ups, and some new tools that we can add to your portfolio for helping you manage these infections and helping you basically recover more quickly. And we're excited to be launching these products. So, and feel free, please, to say hi in the chat if you have questions. Nina's moderating our chat, so please feel free to ask and we can stop. And we're also, very curious about, we put some questions into the chat to learn more about you and kind of what your struggles are right now, and if there are other solutions that we may be able to talk to you about. So what we're going to start with is I'm just going to do kind of a quick recap of some of our basic eczema products. You might have seen our ads about these. So my favorite hero is basically the Bia Eczema Relief Lotion. This is basically this green tube. It's an over-the-counter product. We actually recently got a paper published on it that I'll mention when I talk about the soap as well. And so this is a colloidal oatmeal formula, but really the hero in here is our Biotech Bia Complex 2.0. And the Bia Complex 2.0 is a combination of calendula, which has saponins in it, and triterpentine alcohols, and these are really good for soothing and protecting the skin and reducing itch. The comfrey in this has allantoin, which also helps soothe the itch, and it has keratolytic properties, and what that means, it helps you shed those kind of outer dry layers of the skin. And then there's a new plant in here, Haberleia, which in Bulgaria, where it comes from, is actually called the Dracula plant, because every year it kind of dies, it becomes black, and then in the springtime it becomes green again. So it's almost like a resurrection plant, which is rich in an ingredient called myconicide. And myconicide helps protect the skin from oxidation and increases skin elasticity. In addition, we have hyaluronic acid and ceramides in the lotion. We'll find out why people with eczema have depleted ceramides and generally skin lipids. They also have depleted hydration. So the hyaluronic acid there is meant to restore very quickly. And then it has Padina pavonica, which is basically a marine algae. And that's a humectant that stimulates hyaluronic acid production. So in a way, the hyaluronic acid here, when you first apply it, that's kind of that instant hydration. It draws the water from the outside environment. It delivers the water to your skin barrier. But then long-term, the lotion keeps acting with your skin because it is stimulating your skin barrier to produce more hyaluronic acid, which really helps you retain that moisture and soften that dry, flaky skin. The second product that I'm just going to quickly remind you of, and so these are kind of a package, is our favorite. This is our Bia Unscented Soap. And it was one of the first vegan microbiome certified soaps in the world. And I should also probably say both of these products have the seal of the National Eczema Association as well as the National Psoriasis Foundation. This is a soap that's based on shea butter, cocoa butter, olive oil, calendula, and carrot. Calendula we just talked about. It's a great anti-inflammatory plant. And carrot is actually fun because it contains beta-carotene. And that's basically, that can convert into vitamin A, and that supports skin immunity. The shea butter is basically non-stripping. The last thing we want to do is strip moisture. And then the cocoa butter also helps moisturize, and it's another emollient to help prevent stripping. The olive oil is rich in vitamins and antioxidants. So overall, this basically will not strip your microbiome. We'll be learning why keeping that microbiome intact is so important. And again, both of these products actually do have the My Microbiome seal. And not stripping moisture, because moisture is the one thing when you have eczema that you absolutely want to keep. And then I'm just going to remind everybody, so we have 3 different skin barrier supplements, and you'll be hearing about filaggrin, you'll be hearing about natural moisturization factor, which again is that which helps you retain moisture in your skin. And the filaggrin gene that if you've probably seen our annoying and multiple commercials on Meta. So again, as a scientist for that, I apologize, but we have to do our marketing. So we actually have 3 versions. And yes, actually, EWG, we do have EWG. And we, in fact, the lotion has the EWG eczema seal on it. And so we actually have 3 versions of this histidine, and L-histidine is a very important amino acid because it helps you build filaggrin. And as we'll see in the kind of little lecture snippets, filaggrin is a structural protein. It actually works with keratin. It makes your cells stronger, your skin cells stronger, so that they don't kind of collapse and become leaky, and they can have nice tight junctions between them. And if you have eczema, chances are you have a filaggrin gene deficiency, which means you don't make enough filaggrin, so you don't have enough copies of this gene. And that's hereditary, by the way. And so you need a supplement with L-histidine. Now, if you have a histamine allergy, that can be more complicated because your body can also convert histidine into histamine and make that allergy worse. So this is for people who don't have histamine allergies. And we have 3 versions of it. We have an unflavored powder, which also contains key vitamins and minerals, including zinc, for example, and vitamin C as an antioxidant. And this is for infants from 3 months to 12 months and 1 to 3. Then we have it in gummies because kids kind of from 4 to 12 prefer berry gummies. Now, if you go to Amazon, you might see there we have all kinds of reviews that this doesn't taste like a Haribo gummy. Yes, this is actually a medical food. The histidine has a difficult taste, but we've done our best to make it berry flavored. Most of the kids actually do love it. This also has zinc. It also actually has vitamin D because those have been shown in studies to be very, very important to support immunity and skin regeneration. And lastly, for teenagers, 13 through 18 and adults, we basically have this skin barrier adult and teenage system, and that is histidine in our M3 antioxidant. And the antioxidant has stigmastrol, and stigmastrol is an important active for reducing gut inflammation and getting your gut tight junctions to be important, because we're not going to be talking about the skin gut brain biome connection today. We can do that in another educational live. We kind of really wanted to focus on staph and staph infections with some basic eczema basics. But I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of background. And yes, for the gut, people do have leaky gut. And so the stigmastrol helps the tight junctions in the gut, helps reduce gut inflammation, which reduces systematic inflammation. And so by the time people are teenagers, they may not have been eating the best diet. By the time you're definitely an adult, you do have gut issues that develop over time. And so for those over 12, we actually also have a probiotic, which helps downregulate your immune system, and a prebiotic. And that prebiotic helps essentially reduce leaky gut. It helps motility, and it really prepares your gut. It prepares your gut lining, so the mucus layer, kind of that layer in which your gut microbiome sticks, so that then the prebiotic is effective. And we'll talk about that. We'll have another session about how to do this. A lot of people might have questions, kind of like, when do I take it? This you take with food, this you take before food, this has a capsule to make sure you deliver the bacteria into the gut, etc. But I just wanted to give you guys kind of a quick review. And so let's dive right into it. So Nina, if you could post the first video, we're going to learn about the skin barrier and eczema. And we're going to start building kind of from the skin barrier. We're going to build basically then to what the root causes are of eczema. You'll see how the layers in the skin barrier affect its structural integrity, how the microbiome is really important, and then what happens when you get staph. Okay, I have to press the play on the videos. Okay, got it. Dor, I only see 2 videos here. How do I see the other videos? And then we'll go to the questions. So basically for the gene variants with histamine, there I would go with vitamin D and zinc for sure, because you want to support your immune system. And then you might also want to look at just antioxidants, vitamin C, vitamin E. And for histamine, if you do have a histamine allergy, you can still go through the gut and start rebuilding your gut. So the gut supplements are actually great for people. They have glutamine in there and not histamine or histidine. Let's play. All of them are uploaded on the back end. Okay, guys, sorry. This is our first live, and you are unfortunately here learning with us. So, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. So Dor, I don't see the videos and how to start the videos, because I saw the videos before and I don't see them. Okay, I promise everyone that next live we're going to get this like perfect. And I saw the videos before, but I only saw 2. Okay, scroll right. Okay, I don't see the videos at all anymore. Oh God. And feel free to keep loading us with questions, and I can be answering questions in the meantime while we sort this out. Because I definitely want to make sure that we can address anything or anything you might be worried about. Apologies, I'm just going to send this to our team to figure out what's going on here with my account. And we will definitely be recording a video. What we'll probably do is we will edit it so that you don't have us fumbling around. So let's just see. So there's a question on the wonderful MTHFR gene. And this is basically a gene that we are working on for a genetic screening test. And this gene, pretty much it provides instructions for an enzyme that's critical for processing folate. So we're actually going to be coming out on our telehealth platform that will have a separate live on as well, that's launching on February 2nd. And the MTHFR gene, and it always, whenever I see the gene, and I apologize, it always reminds me of a very bad swear word that I'm sure everybody, if you fill in vowels, you can figure out what that is. And this is basically for processing folate into its active form, and that basically helps your body build DNA, modified proteins, and recycle homocysteine. Severe mutations are rare. We have seen them, but actually, from what I understand, it actually doesn't, it applies to vitamin B deficiency and, obviously vitamin B9. So we do have in the kids supplement, actually, both of the kids supplement, we do supplement them with vitamin B9. for skin specifically, the vitamin B9 is important because it helps you when you're exposed to UV. So it basically helps reduce the sun damage when you don't put on enough sunscreen. And so it also does help with dry skin and wrinkling. It basically helps reduce wrinkling. But in this case, it does not apply. Okay, we don't know why the videos disappeared, so maybe I'm just gonna continue then talking in general. So bear with me while we basically, so we can just go through more general eczema stuff until we, you know, keep free, you know, I'm just gonna keep talking, keep asking questions. The whole point of this is to educate. So we're gonna take a look at eczema. So basically, eczema is broken, inflamed skin. The issue, as we'll see with the skin barrier, is it becomes leaky. There are mechanisms by which bacteria, particularly staph, can overgrow. Your skin microbiome, which is the topmost layer, is where you have that skin microbiome. And the reason all of our products are My Microbiome certified, the reason that we spent so much time developing a preservative system that's called Preservex, which is a combination of actually lactobacillus ferments, is because lactobacillus is one of the bacteria that naturally lives on your skin. And so lactobacillus produces what are called bacteriocins, and bacteriocins are essentially things that kill other bacteria. And so our preservative system was meant to mimic certain bacteria on your skin to basically be good to the good bacteria and bad to the pathogens or the bad bacteria, like staph, for example. But staph, I mean, if you look at bacteria, there's different kinds of bacteria. And the bacteria are labeled, I don't know if you remember your high school biology, but there were classifications like kingdom, phylum, family, etc. And there's genus and there's species. And so Staphylococcus is actually staph is a genus, and then there's different species. So for example, in your skin microbiome, you will have Staph hominis and Staph aureus. And Staph hominis is actually a good player, or Staph epidermidis, that's another good player. And so Staph aureus is a toxic player that causes inflammation. So when we say staph, I'm always going to be talking about Staph aureus because that's something that can cause inflammation. The supplements here is basically the only kids one. We didn't know if you guys would be interested in the adult version or if you'd be interested in the infant toddler version. So feel free to go to our website. You can find everything on our website at codexlabscorp.com. And then in the meantime, I think we can kind of talk about what are the basic strategies for protecting and supporting the skin barrier when it's actually already kind of compromised. So you're basically starting behind the line with a damaged skin barrier. So the first is, as I talked about, for example, with the soap, incredibly gentle cleansing. The last thing you want to do is strip that microbiome. You want to leave that natural microbiome. Your skin microbiome will recover. But as many people found out during COVID, I don't know if you remember when we had all these antibacterials and we had all this alcohol that we were using constantly so that we wouldn't get the virus, pretty much everybody's hands, healthy or with eczema, started cracking because after a while, if you're constantly stripping that microbiome from your body, it can't recover. And when you lose the microbiome, that changes the pH of your skin, that changes your skin barrier, and things can start to crack because now all of a sudden you've stripped all the oils out of your skin with the alcohol, you stripped all the good bacteria off your skin, and now basically it's red, it's inflamed, and you can get infections. So gentle cleansing is incredibly important. And constant and intensive barrier repair is important, and that's essentially emollients to replenish ceramides, hyaluronic acid, and hydration to replenish the moisture in the skin. It's basically to keep it nice, sealed, to keep it hydrated, and to basically the tight junctions in between the cells, that's where the lipids are, that's where the ceramides are. You want to fill the space in between the cells. So there's basically a simplistic model called the brick wall model where you look at the skin cells, the corneocytes as basically the bricks, and then you have the lipids and the ceramides is the mortar in between. And you say, okay, well, you know, in eczematic skin, there's less ceramide production, there's lipid production, and therefore there's holes in between the bricks, so things can penetrate. So things like allergens and pathogens can penetrate. And then you don't want to strip everything. So Nina, I don't know if you can add the adult products for purchase tonight, but hopefully if we can do that, we should definitely try. But you guys will also get a code. So it's the code, basically, I was hoping that when we hit 200 people, if you basically helped us get more people to listen, maybe once we get all of our technical difficulties reduced, but we can certainly, because of the technical difficulties, if you use the code staff25 on our website, it will work. And you can buy any of the supplements that you'd like. Micellar products are actually very good. If you get micellar products, they usually don't strip the microbiome. Many of them are very microbiome friendly. It depends what other actives are in there, but a general like micellar cleansing water is going to be very, very gentle. So for example, for makeup removal or general washing, it's actually great. That's a great product. What you don't want are things like with fragrance, with sulfates that aren't pH balanced, that foam a lot, because the surfactants that allow the products to foam will also strip the microbiome. They basically just, and they really love to strip all the lipids off your skin. The other thing to remember is the temperature of the water. Ideally, you use like lukewarm water, not hot water. When you're taking a shower, shorter is better. And then in terms of when you get out of the shower, your face, the worst thing you can do for skin with eczema, for the skin barrier, is to rub it. Like I know sometimes, you know, you get out of the shower, it's the morning, you're feeling, you know, very energetic, and you're just rubbing yourself with a towel. That is the worst thing you can do. You want to pat yourself dry gently. That's why we're also going to be talking, and I'll probably get a little bit ahead of myself, but we're going to be talking about washing pads, especially for people with really compromised skin where you can't actually even use a cleanser. So maybe what I can do is we can kind of skip ahead and do the stuff that we were going to do at the end, but do it at the beginning. And while we're figuring out the, oh, how can you tell? Okay, that's an excellent question, Josh. So typically, psoriasis is when the skin cells, when your skin barrier grows and your skin cells divide more quickly than usual. There's different inflammatory molecules. So basically these are called cytokines and interleukins. You might have seen, you know, talking about IL-4, IL-13, IL-31, IL-17, IL-23. So the inflammation communication molecules are different between psoriasis and eczema. And so eczema tends to have more of an itch versus psoriasis is more of a burn. Eczema tends to look more red and like dry skin, whereas psoriasis is more elevated and more silvery. I don't know if that answers the question. Also, a great way to tell is where the patches are on your body. Eczema tends to be on skin folds. So for example, if we look at the elbow, eczema will be on the inside fold. So if you look at how your body, the mechanics, eczema is on the inside surface, whereas psoriasis is usually always on the outside surface. And the same is true for knees. Now, obviously on the face, we don't fold our face up, so they can basically occur on the face where it's much harder to tell. But people with psoriasis can have exactly similar skin issues, and staph infections can definitely happen to people with psoriasis as well. They can happen to people with rosacea. But yeah, so kind of an easy way to tell is eczema happens on the inside of the folds of our joints, and psoriasis happens on the outside. Oh my God, Lynn, thank you so much. We are so excited to hear that. Acne is actually a very difficult skin condition. We're going to have a live about another microbiome modulating product that we've launched, but it is really, really, acne is one of the hardest things to deal with. Psoriasis, actually, there's many different kinds of psoriasis. So interestingly, with eczema and atopic dermatitis, there's atopic, there's nummular dermatitis, there's contact dermatitis. So there aren't as many. Dermatitis is not as complicated. Psoriasis is an extremely complicated disease. And then rosacea and acne are these modular things where there's overlap between rosacea and acne. There can be rosacea acne. And again, these signaling molecules, maybe we'll do a live on just like what are the signal molecules. Daily skincare habits. So basically, Josh, the first thing is the gentle cleanser, gentle washing, lukewarm water, short showers, patting it dry. The next thing is, as you come out of washing, the most important thing while you're still a little damp is to apply the cream, the barrier cream, the moisturizer. So in our case, it would be the eczema lotion or whatever, you know, some people prefer a thicker lotion. This is slightly thinner because we want it to penetrate through the skin barrier because we are actually modulating the genetics. What this does is it basically increases and stimulates the copies of the filaggrin gene that you have in your skin, so you produce as much filaggrin as possible, so that you produce as much hyaluronic acid as possible, and so that you produce the most ceramides as possible. So we're actually trying to encourage your skin with these plant-based ingredients to activate those genes to work harder, to repair your skin barrier. But some people prefer a thicker, more ointment-like cream for very, very dry, cracked skin. But the most important thing, and this also has sunflower oil, which has the right fatty acids for helping repair the skin barrier. But some people prefer like petrolatum, other people prefer aquaphor. The main thing is fragrance-free and dye-free. And you apply typically within 3 to 5 minutes. So it's kind of like soak and seal. You take your shower, you bathe, you pat dry, and then you immediately seal in that. And then the other thing is just you generously moisturize yourself multiple times. And on dry patches, kind of as often as it feels good. Again, if you're looking at different products, you know, this one is kind of more of a lighter product. Other people prefer medium or heavy. You can also put this on first, and then if you want to put on an oil, and we're actually working on a body oil, but if there's another, you know, you can go as simple as, for example, just a jojoba oil and put it over it to give you that kind of extra barrier protection. And some people prefer, you know, a heavier thing at nighttime because you lose actually the most water in your body at night. Because you're sweating and you lose about 40% of your daily water loss during your sleep time. So that's when it's good to like put on we call this the treatment cream, and then a heavier either cream or an oil as you sleep. And also, you know, it depends, you know, kids versus adults, right? Like how greasy do you want to send your child to school? You know that they're not going to reapply it. This was something I would fight with my son all the time. You know, here's your lotion. And then, you know, a month would go by and the lotion would still weigh the same. And it's like, I know you are not using this, because I would weigh it. And he'd be like, yeah, I'm not, you know, it's like, fess up, come on. So moisturize. So basically gentle cleansing, moisturizing, look for colloidal oatmeal, look for lanolin. So things like comfrey. If you are itchy, we're going to be talking about some salt wraps that you can do. The other thing you can do is you can carry around hypochlorous acid spray, so that if you're sweating or you're exercising and you don't have a chance to take a shower, you basically can prevent additional infections with that. So what triggers staph infections on the skin, and then what are the primary genetic and environmental factors? Oh my God. So we have all this in videos. So we've got to get these videos going. So let's see. I have no tab. So Dor, I have no tab. I have no video tab at all. So I cannot show videos. So a lot of your questions, I prepared material, and it's prepared in a much nicer way. And if I'd known this, I would have probably just printed out the slides and been holding them up in front of my face. So again, I apologize about this. What triggers the staph infections on the skin is, so we have staph naturally on our skin. It's part of our microbiome. It lives there. It coexists with the other bacteria. But if we strip the microbiome, it's a very, very aggressive bacteria. And so if it sees that the other bacteria are gone, it basically goes, yeah, and it starts multiplying and feeding basically off of our skin. And that's when you can develop the staph infection. We also have staph in our noses. So for kids, and again, I apologize for kind of being direct and gross. You know how little kids can pick their nose or stick their fingers everywhere? They can actually spread the staph from their nose onto their body. So that's how you can get staph infections. The other thing is staph can live in the dirt. So if you're playing in a playground, oftentimes kids come back from summer camp full of staph. It's just because of general hygiene. So that's pretty much where you can get staph from pretty much anywhere. It's everywhere also, like it's in the soil, it can be, you know, on food, but mostly it lives on our skin already. It's already there. It's in our nose. And so, you know, for example, if you have a cold, it can come out with a runny nose. You can spread it with a Kleenex. You can spread it with your fingers. And that's why you're going to talk about some other tools that you can use to not use your fingers, especially if you have a staph infection. So maybe, okay, for acne patients, so the microbiome support to inhibit facial, yeah. So pustular impact as well, like in acne, you can be, if you have a lot of acne bacteria on your face, there you're sweating. So it's kind of just as your sweat spreads or you touch your face. So again, it goes back to touching your face is not the greatest thing to do, especially with acne. And so with acne, yeah, people will spread it with their fingers. And so maybe what we'll do is let's talk about the washies. And this is maybe a great segue. So we have a partnership with Lunescent, and they developed this in white. They have it in actually many different colors, but for us, because we love medical and everything, if it's white, you know that it's clean. And what this is, it's basically an applicator. And if you're applying treatments, and then we'll be talking about this little biome reset gel. And so maybe what I can do is I can just maybe do a little bit of a demo. So this is basically a 2-day treatment for staph. It's 5 milliliters. And once you basically press that pump, this is an airless pump, but once you press that pump for the first time, you're pretty much activating the product in the sense that it's not completely sterile anymore. And so we have this applicator because the last thing you want to do is be applying the product to a staph zone with your fingers and then putting your fingers, you know, you might touch something, you might touch yourself if you're doing it for your child, you don't necessarily want to get the staph from your child. And so this basically ensures a hygienic, touch-free application. It also minimizes cross-contamination, and it enhances treatment absorption because basically this protects the active ingredients. If we think about our fingers, you know, our bodies are at 37 degrees C, we're warm, we're sweaty, we can also have grime on our fingers. And so this is actually the ideal applicator for any microbiome gel or serum. So this is actually the perfect kind of pairing with this microbiome gel. And this way you can apply products on yourself, on your little ones, without mess, without also needing to wash your hands. So for example, if you're traveling, this is actually another great way, you know, because you can keep it in a basically a sterile container. The container is made out of stainless steel. You can put everything in the dishwasher. It also has, if you're applying, for example, something from a jar, like a treatment, then it basically has a little applicator, so you never have to touch your fingers. There are actually 2 different kinds, so you can basically, I'll show you guys. Let's see if I can do this while holding it up. So here on the back, this kind of rotates, so you can see it swivels. And so you can actually pop it off, which, here we go. So you can pop this off. Then it kind of looks like, you know, the flosser thing. And then you can exchange, basically, there's a smooth and a corrugated. So if you want to kind of, I don't know if you guys can see it. So there's a smooth one, and this one has like little bumpies. Like, yeah, you can probably see the little bumpies like that. And so if you want to give yourself a massage, even if you have staph, you can still give yourself a massage. The other thing, because you keep this gel in the cold, to maximize the life of the phages that are in this, and the phage lysate, this will be cold, and so this will be soothing. You can put this in the fridge, and then the applicator will be cold, the gel will be cold, and it feels really good. Like cooling your skin is a great way to reduce the itch. So let me just kind of reassemble this back kind of where we came from, and then I can tell you a little bit more actually about this. So this is actually platinum grade silicone. There are 0 PFAS forever chemicals in this. It allows you to also, if you're putting something with a pump, it allows you, for example, I want to do 2 drops. You know, this gives you controlled dosing. So actually a product like this can last, you know, for your entire body. It's a 40, as I said, it's a 48-hour kind of treatment for staph. And there's 0 absorption of the active on your fingers. Also, if you're using corticosteroids, this is another great product, because the last thing, if you're using corticosteroids on your child because they have an emergency, and as you guys know, we say that corticosteroids definitely have a role, but you should not be applying them every day for years. That is absolutely not why they were developed. And if that's what you're being told, you need to question that, because that can lead to topical steroid withdrawal syndrome and other issues. But basically, this is a great applicator, and you can put it in the dishwasher. You can sterilize it that way. Again, this is platinum silicone, which is a medical material. It's used in the healthcare and the biotech and the food industry. It's very flexible. As you probably saw, it's like a rubber. It's used in breathing masks, infusion tubes, intravenous lines, orthodontic braces, you name it. This is basically a medical grade product. So this is actually really cool. Hi, Eva. Moc pozdravuju. And maybe we'll talk about the Kung Fu cream another time. Moc děkuju, že jsi tady. So let's just take a look at this. So this is basically the biome gel. So you'll get it in a frozen pack. Let me just go grab one. So give me 1 second. This will tell you kind of how it arrives. So because I am a very OCD and anal retentive person, what you'll get in the mail will look like this. This is from our temperature controlled warehouse. And you will basically see inside here is basically a thermal pouch. And in there will be 2 cold packs, 2 frozen cold packs. And then these products will be in between the cold packs. So when you get it and you open it up, put it in your fridge. Don't freeze it. And then basically when you're ready, you cleanse your skin. And then you basically can use this applicator, and it just comes out. It literally comes out. I don't know if we'll be able to see this. So, but you guys can probably see there's the glob. And then you can use the applicator. So I burned myself on the oven the other day, so I'm just going to use this, to prevent infection on myself. So you can see the lovely burn mark here. And then you can just nicely kind of spread it. Obviously, I used way too much. I can actually show you guys with this applicator and like 1 or 2 pumps, you can literally cover your entire hand. So a little bit like this will go an incredibly long way. So if you have a child, for example, whose backs of the knees, legs, are just covered in staph, this will actually go a very long way. So in fact, I can probably go halfway up my arm with this applicator in the product, and it's a gel, so it just glides on, really, really easily. So it's very slippery, and so you apply it. You will leave this on for 15 to 20 minutes. So the way that phages work is they drill their DNA into the bacteria, and then eventually they make the bacteria explode. You don't have to worry about the phages being safe, because one phage will attack one type of bacterium. So these phages only attack Staph aureus. They will actually not attack the good staph, the Staph epidermidis or the Staph hominis. And so basically, in about 15 to 20 minutes, what you'll do once it dries, and hopefully by then we have the video so I can go wash my hand, you basically wash it off, you rinse it off with water, you pat it dry, you apply your moisturizer, and you do this once in the morning, once in the evening, 2 days in a row. If the staph infection is really bad and you have some left over, you can keep going, or you open a new bottle. But basically, this is a very simple treatment. You'll see a fairly quick change. Now, you'll see oozing and crusting go down. You'll see the redness go down. For the skin barrier to fully heal after a staph infection can take a skin barrier turnover cycle. So we have another module that basically we haven't shown you yet, and it shows a chart. And what that chart shows is, for example, in kids, the skin barrier turns around somewhere between 3 to 7 days, depending on whether they're a baby or they're basically a toddler. In teenagers, it's more like 10 to 21 days, so kind of a little under 2 weeks to 2 weeks. In your 20s, it's still 2 to 3 weeks. And then as we get older, your skin barrier turns over more slowly. So if you're a 54 like me, you're looking at 6 to 8 weeks. This is also why we run a lot of our clinical trials between the ages of 18 to 65 over 2 months, which are 8 weeks, because we want to make sure we see at least one full skin barrier turnover cycle. So that's basically the applicator. You can also use it to apply lotion. You can also use it to apply any face cream, eye cream. It's kind of like a general purpose tool that you can use for applying anything from corticosteroids to antibiotic topicals if you're dealing with staph, to the phage gel. And then let's talk a little bit about washing if your skin is super, super, super sensitive and you can't even tolerate a cleanser. So now we're just talking about lukewarm water. So we made a partnership with a company called Washies. And there's 2 kinds of washies. So these are also in the shopping. So basically this can either be used on your face or a baby or a toddler. So if you're washing your child, for example, in a bathtub, you can, this is usually big enough, but we also have a version which is a glove. On the other side, you can see the cutout. So you can pretty much stick your hand in here. And what's really cool, and your thumb comes out, and then basically there's 2 different sides. There's a soft side, and then there's one that's slightly rougher, but they're both very, very soft. Kind of feels like a sheep or a Maine Coon cat. And the outside one is for exfoliation, so for super, super gentle exfoliation, and this one is for just very gentle washing. And you can see there are 2 holes, so that basically for people who are left-handed or for people who are right-handed, you can use the glove either this way, or you can turn the glove around and use it that way. So it's very, very easy to use. What's cool about this material is that it was actually tested in Germany with a standard called a dermatest rating. This is an independent dermatological institute that has been operating in Germany for testing consumer products since 1978. They did a clinical study with at least 20 subjects, test subjects over 4 weeks. And this product, basically the material got 5-star results, which basically means that it doesn't strip and it's very compatible, it's hypoallergenic. And basically this gives scientific confidence in the safety and efficacy of this material. And so the whole point of this is because eczema, psoriasis, acne, all of the skin here is very, very sensitive. We also wanted it to be Ecotech Standard 100. And what that basically means is that the fibers in this material are free from harmful substances, free from toxins, free from industrial processing, alcohols, petrochemicals, so that you can use this even on a newborn baby. And so while, we can't guarantee that any fiber is 100%, like 100% 0.000 allergen free, these are basically as kind of close as you can get. Because the high-tech fiber blends are among the most skin-friendly that we found on the market and the least likely to cause irritation. And so if your skin is incredibly damaged or you're just coming out of the staph infection, for example, you can wash with this and just lukewarm water. You don't even need to have a cleanser. And that just very gently, again, patting, you don't want to be doing that like hardcore rubbing, but just gently kind of lightly tapping the skin and patting the skin. And that basically will remove the dirt and the grime. It'll still be very soft and soothing. And the beauty is you can then, wash it up to 200 times. So they're very, very sustainable and consciously crafted. So even if you're washing them every day, they can last almost 2/3 of a year. If you're washing them, every other day, this can last easily a year or 2. And so they're basically ideal for washing this extra sensitive skin. So I guess now the question is, yeah, I wish it came as a bathrobe. I would be buying one, or even towels, but at least it's a start. And it gives us an option if we're having a really bad flare and we're worried even about using the most gentle soap. And again, this is good from newborns and up. But even if you're, sometimes your skin can get so irritated, or, when I got the 2nd-degree burn, no matter what you do, it hurts. And so what is the long-term impact of severe eczema on a patient's mental health and overall quality of life? So it's significant. And again, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. constant outbreaks, not being able to go out, not being able to socialize, oftentimes the pain associated with severe eczema, having to wear special clothing. So for example, my son had to wear, for a long time when he was little, the special scratch mittens. We had to wrap them. You have to wear the special organic cotton clothing. It's significant. It really, really cannot be underestimated. And the stress from that can contribute to the systemic underlying inflammation. So you get this vicious cycle that your skin is erupted, you're constantly trying not to itch. It's incredibly distracting because you're just trying to get enough willpower to not, damage your skin further. You have to wear specialized clothing. You can't necessarily go out if you have a lot of allergies that are associated with severe eczema. You have to be incredibly careful about your diet. You can't necessarily tolerate hot or cold weather very well. So it's not like you can, kind of pack up and go skiing or surfing at a moment's notice. So it is, how should I put it? It creates for incredibly strong people that I have tremendous respect for. People who develop TSW, those are kind of the next level up. Those are people who've been on corticosteroids for 10, sometimes 20 years. They end up getting, and some people with severe eczema as well, just the oozing and the blood and the crusting. It's embarrassing. They probably feel like, they're inadequate, they're damaged. And people with TSW can't go out. Oftentimes they can't work. And it's a constant mental drain. Like it's a constant mental drain. And also oftentimes you can't sleep very well. And so when you can't sleep, your body can't repair itself because the autophagy processes that happen when we sleep, basically cleaning up the dead cells, cleaning up the toxins in our body, your body can't do that because you're constantly awake, you're uncomfortable. When you get too hot in bed, you're uncomfortable. When you get too cold in bed, you're uncomfortable. Your skin is incredibly sensitive. The nerve endings, again, we have a little module. Oh, TSW is topical steroid withdrawal syndrome. And so basically, it's basically a condition we're seeing now in children as young as 2, and it's where your immune system becomes completely dysregulated from steroids, from steroid use. They can be oral corticosteroids, they can be topical corticosteroids. Most often they're topical corticosteroids that people have been using for a very long time to manage the eczema. So they're told, use the steroid, use the emollient, they use it every day. To get people off of the corticosteroids can be a challenge. It can take 6 months to a year. And you basically just have to start skipping days. And then you get to a point where maybe you might only be using them 3 times a week and your body flares up again. And then you have to use them for maybe a week. And just so you guys get perspective, in Europe, typically they're recommended for 3 to 5 days and then people stop. In the United States, some physicians will prescribe them with 5-6 refills. So one has to be really mindful that it's an incredibly powerful tool. It's a wonderful medication, but too much of a good thing can be a very, very bad thing. And so, and with staph infections, things like that, basically, again, doctors might give you steroids. And yes, the steroids will immediately, like one of their strengths is they immediately reduce the inflammation, but it's an addiction. Like you're actually building an addiction in your immune system. Some biologic drugs can also build that kind of addiction in your immune system. And so sometimes it's called blowback. It can be much, much worse, and that's topical steroid withdrawal syndrome. And these people are covered. It's typically when you really get it badly, you develop what's called a cuff. And what it means is that basically your hands are okay up to the wrist, your legs, your feet are okay up to your ankles, and then the entire rest of your entire body, your face, front, back, no longer like the crevices, like your entire body, your entire skin, essentially cracks, bleeds, rips open. You have oozing of serum, like your blood serum. So you have to be incredibly then careful about infections like that. That's a whole another level of infections. Many of these people end up in the hospital. They end up bandaged constantly because they can't have any exposure to the outside. And talk about emotional trauma. That is absolutely something unbelievable. In terms of fungal infections on TSW skin, so there you do need a prescription antifungal. So there you do need to go to the doctor. Fungal infections, so again, I had some pictures of staph so that you guys could see what it looked like. It typically starts like red bumps, and then the red bumps can become bigger, and as you scratch them, you can also get like these yellow crusts forming. MRSA, which is a methicillin-resistant staph, can form these black crusts. And again, you can get MRSA on the playground. You can get MRSA in a schoolroom if you have a young child. So crusts, look for redness, look for itchiness. Another interesting thing is that people have measured the skin microbiome before and after a flare in children. And what they found is that the staph is normal, but during the flare, the staph population goes crazy. And then once the flare is over, the staph population drops back to a normal level in the ecosystem of the skin microbiome. So definitely there's an association of staph with eczema flare-ups. Even if it's not a staph infection, there's definitely an association even in a fairly normal skin microbiome. So probably is not a bad idea once a month to just do I'm going to get rid of my Staph aureus. And again, this is Staph aureus, not Staph hominis, not Staph epidermidis. Winter, way more flare-ups. Winter tends to be colder. We tend to have heating on. Heating dries the air. The dry air dries our skin because the air is going to get moisture from somewhere. So we're a great source of moisture. Again, if the moisture level in the air is lower than the moisture level in our skin, there's a gradient. And guess what? If you have a gradient, you get diffusion and the water diffuses out of our skin. That's called transepidermal water loss. The more leaky the skin barrier, the worse your eczema is, the faster that water will be depleted in your skin. That's why we, again, have the emollients, is to kind of seal that barrier and lock that back in. Summer, if it's really hot and you're sweating or you have friction, that can then damage the skin barrier. So really hot summers, really cold winters, we typically see more flare-ups during the winter. It also has to do with, just in general, what we eat. We tend to eat more fruit during the summer. We tend to eat more vegetables during the summer. Kudos to the people who are incredibly consistent all year round. But basically, more fruit means more antioxidants. More antioxidants means a healthier skin barrier. Athletes, so for example, people who swim, urine chlorinated water. That's really tough with eczema. Good for staph, because another way to get rid of staph or prevent staph is, again, hypochlorous acid. So you can either buy one of these sprays like Tower 28 with hypochlorous acid. Again, but don't overdo it because you don't want to kill the whole microbiome. But just, you can basically lightly spray yourself once or twice a day. Or, if you're worried about a child who might have an incipient staph infection, you can do a very, very dilute bleach bath. Again, very careful of the eyes and face when you're doing the bleach bath. It's much harder. See, the nice thing about the gel is that you can put it on the face. And in fact, you can put it all the way up to your eye socket, which you can't do with a bleach bath, or it's kind of not ideal to do that with hypochlorous acid either. So this is another way to just prevent the staph infection and get rid of it. And so anytime you sweat, anytime it's really cold or hot, because that dysregulates your skin barrier and water loss. Anytime you're exposed to anything that can strip the skin oils off your skin. So for example, if you're at the beach in the summer, you're putting on a lot of SPF and then you're washing off the SPF. SPF is not easy to get off. It's really important to prevent skin cancer, but then you usually use something stronger, like a stronger surfactant, to get the SPF off your skin. Well, there goes your skin microbiome with it. So there, again, it's really important both summer and winter to have a pH balanced cleanser or a super, super gentle soak. Yeah, Mike, a bleach bath is basically, you can Google it, and you basically take a certain amount of bleach and you put it in water and you go soak yourself in it. So that's the easiest way. If you're worried about having, staph infection and it's very low, you can just do that immediately. But just make sure if you go to the National Eczema Association site, they have guidelines for bleach bath. And you can start with that. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about our skin soak. So this is basically if you are itchy, if you are coming off a staph infection, or for the times if you have a child in between staph infections that you're trying to prevent from scratching and itching. This is a bit of a mouthful. It's our sensitive skin salt soak wrap. When you open it up and you're thinking, oh, this is like a bath salt. Well, sort of. And the reason I say sort of is this does have sea salt, it does have Epsom salt, but it also has tapioca starch. And it has tapioca starch to absorb the jojoba oil, the chickweed oil, there's oat seed oil, and gotu kola, which is Centella asiatica. And so it will, maybe I know if you guys can see, it's not going to be like salt that just kind of falls out. It will glom because there's that tapioca and the oils there keeping it together. And so basically you'll take a tablespoon of this, put it in about a quart of water. If you want a little bit concentrated, then maybe you fill the quart bowl up to half. You make basically you make sure that it dissolves, and then you take gauze. So for example, gauze or cotton wrap, and you will take this and you'll soak this basically in the water. And then you can wrap the area of your child that has the staph infection or that's super itchy. I'm not doing a good job wrapping myself right now with the gauze, but basically you make a gauze wrap. If you go to the website and you go to the sea salt soak, you'll kind of see an example of a gauze wrap, and you leave this on for about 20 minutes. After that, you remove the gauze wrap and you rinse it with water, you pat it dry, and you apply moisturizer. So that's for a child. If you are really, really, really itchy, you can make a more dilute solution with the salt and make what's called a wet wrap. And so say, for example, you're putting medication on, then you make the wet wrap, you apply this to yourself. That helps the medication penetrate your skin more rapidly. And then on top of this wet gauze, you will put another dry gauze layer or another dry layer to basically really make sure that the moisture stays in, and you can do this for a couple hours. Some people even sleep in it, and this will provide relief. So the chickweed and the gotu kola are really good as anti-itch. They calm the nerve endings. They're also anti-inflammatory. But the bonus was when we put this together is we actually realized, and the jojoba oil is a wonderful emollient, so it's actually great for, again, replenishing those fatty acids in the skin. But the chickweed and the gotu kola are actually really good as anti-staph. So once you've kind of gotten rid of the staph with the gel, this is a great kind of addition for the days in between to just basically soothe the skin, reduce the itch, prevent scratching, but also to make sure that that staph doesn't come back. And again, this this is about 200 grams or 7 ounces. And so with tablespoons, this is a lot of doses. And one bowl like that, you can soak a lot of gauze. So you could technically cover your entire child like a mummy, or cover yourself like a mummy if you need to for that relief. Do we have any videos? We've been going at this for like 1 hour and 15 minutes, and it's like, I guess not. So I guess it'll be fixed for the next live. Okay, guys, what we'll do is Michael, I think, or Nina, if you're listening for my team, we will put the recordings of the kind of their 3-minute recordings, and we have different topics. And basically, we have one about salt wraps, one about more details of the biome gel, one which is an educational video about staph, like what is it? It's a gram-negative spherical bacterium. Some of it is like, there's some nice illustrations of what I was talking about, like how the microbiome changes before and after flare-ups. We have other conditions for flare-ups. There's another section on the genetic causes of eczema. So basically what we talked about already, but there's some nice illustrations that kind of help you tie it all together in your head. At least they help me. And then there's one that's just an introductory basically section on the skin barrier. Again, I told you the brick and mortar model, but the skin barrier is way more sophisticated. It's this incredible system of, you know, the microbiome, and then there's the physical and chemical barrier layer, and then there's basically an immune layer, and then there's a nervous, neurological layer, and then underneath it is basically so there's like the stratum corneum, and then the stratum spinosum, and then the stratum basal, and all these layers kind of interact together. And then underneath it is basically the dermis and the extracellular matrix, which has the blood vessels in it, and which basically is all the structural support in your collagen. So it just kind of gives you an illustration, because I think it's important to understand the physiology, and we've tried to explain it in a way that's understandable, because to me as a scientist, if you truly understand your subject well, you can explain it to a 4-year-old and they'll be delighted because they've just discovered something about the world and nature. And when you see them smile, you've done a good job, and you actually know you understand your science. So don't be afraid of it. Yes, there's some technical diagrams in there that might look complicated, but again, if you guys then write us, we can also do other educational series about all the different aspects. I want all of you guys to be experts, because to be informed means you can make the best decisions for you, for your family, for your loved ones. So the staff discount code was going to be on for just today till midnight, but what I'll do is I'm just going to extend it till the end of the month, because I'm not sure what other technical difficulties we're going to have. So after this live, I'm going to go extend it on Shopify. So don't worry, just remember staff 25. Use it. It's a one-time code to kind of get a try for some of these products. If you also have any questions, email us at support@codexlabs.corp. All the technical questions or concerns are forwarded to me, and I will answer them. In terms of Mike's question about herbal oil, so coconut is great. I used coconut oil on my son, like the edible coconut oil that you get in the tub for cooking when he was a baby, because it was not a corticosteroid. It's a great antibacterial. It's also very, very hydrating. Jojoba oil is great. If you don't have a tree nut allergy, almond oil is great. Otherwise, sunflower oil is great. It has gamma-linoleic acid, which is, again, a great filler for your skin barrier. Sorry about the technical difficulties. I know we've kind of run over with everything. I just want to thank everybody who stayed. You've been amazing. You've been incredibly patient. We'll get all this on the website, and we'll let you know where to find it. And we'll do this again, and I promise next time we will not have technical difficulties. So thank you again. All right, Dor, how do we all quit? How do we get out of this? Is there like an out button? Press end session. I don't have an end session button. Okay, guys, I'm just gonna kill this tab. Again, thank you so much. So very, very, okay, Dor's gonna do it. Dor's gonna let us all go home. So thank you again. Really appreciate your attention. And we will make sure next time that everything's working. And thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll close the tab. Okay, thanks everyone. Bye. Have a good evening.